This video will show you how to replace the rear upper control arm on a Ford Edge. This is part of your rear suspension located behind your rear wheel. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. Now a quick note about doing this is we will have to carefully lower our rear subframe. So with that said, let's safely raise and support the rear of the vehicle so both wheels are off the ground. Now once you've done that, if you have a center cover, go ahead and remove that now. Typically you're going to find a slot that you can make your way in between and gently pry. A quick inspection. Once you've done that, remove all 5 of your 19mm lug nuts and we can get the wheel off of here. Now that we have the wheel off, looking along the top is where we can see our rear upper control arm. A quick note about this, if you are looking at the inboard hardware, you're going to find that you have to carefully lower the rear subframe enough to remove that mounting bolt. Now with that said, let's start dislodging our flex hose from its mounting bracket. In this area, you're going to find that you have a 10mm headed mounting bolt. Let's remove that. Now as we look at the rearward side of the upper control arm, you can see where our ABS wire makes its way across the control arm. So as far as our 2 mounting points, we're not removing the ABS wire from its bracket. We're actually going to remove the ABS wire and bracket from the control arm itself. I'm going to carefully pry this up and out of place. I can see an area that I can gain access with a pick, so I'm just going to go in between that bracket and the control arm. We'll lift that up and out of place and confirm it's still in good usable order. This looks good. Go ahead and repeat the process for the next one. Make sure you hang your ABS wire in a way that's not going to cause any damage. Now with all that out of the way, let's pay attention along the outer portion of our upper control arm. We can see that we have an 18mm headed mounting bolt that comes through from the rear all the way through this area to the forward side. On the forward side, you can see that our mounting nut actually has this small hook that's holding the nut in place. We do not have to worry about holding the nut, but you do want to be aware of any pinch points. If you find that your mounting bolt is stuck in place, you can apply some heat. Since mine is hot, I'm just going to use a rag to remove this. We'll clean our mounting bolt and set that aside. We have the outer hardware out of place. To remove the inner hardware, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, we have to drop the subframe, so let's make our way safely under the rear of the vehicle. Now that we have the bolt on the outer portion of the control arm done, let's make our way towards where our rear shock connects in down along the bottom area. We have an 18mm headed mounting nut. You're going to find that as we start removing this, the mounting bolt itself, the head has a small ear that comes over, and that will restrict this from turning, so we do not have to worry about holding this with any pliers. Of course, we'll clean our hardware. For now, we'll just go ahead and set that aside. Now we need to apply support along the rear of the subframe. As I make my way under the rear of the vehicle, I'm going to apply some support on the rear of my subframe. I don't need very much pressure here. Now that I have support under here, let's make our way towards the side of the subframe that we're working on. You're going to find the subframe will have mounting hardware. We're along the rearward side. We can see our rear shock. Use an 18mm to remove this mounting nut. find that that mounting nut has a captured large washer on it. Let's set that aside. Now as we move to the forward side here, we can see that we have another 18mm headed mounting nut, but in this area, we also have a metal bracket. Now as I move to where the bolts are that should be holding this bracket to the body of the vehicle, I can see that one of the bolts that should be in this area has already been broken. So of course I have penetrant in this area. Let's start removing the one 10mm headed mounting bolt that I have here. If yours has both, remove the pair. There's one bolt. As I mentioned, if yours has a second, remove that as well. Clean them up and set them aside, and then we'll move along to our 18mm headed mounting nut. Now as we move along to our 18mm mounting nut, keep in mind the bracket may spin. To help prevent that, I'm just using one of my original mounting bolts, starting it in just a couple threads here. Let's continue on, being aware of any pinch points. We'll hold the bracket, remove that bolt, remove the bracket. As we move over towards the other side of the vehicle, we're only loosening our hardware, but we're going to leave it on a couple threads. Now we're moving along to the front hardware. We have our 18mm mounting nut, but first, of course, we're also going to loosen each one of our two mounting bolts. On this side of the subframe, it's really just a pivot point, so we need to make sure the hardware is loose. You don't typically have to fully remove it, especially the two front bolts here, which commonly break. Now we're going to start lowering down the subframe. While doing so, we need to pay attention to the inboard bolt on our upper control arm. We need this to come into an area that can fit along inside of our coil spring. We'll carefully start lowering this down. There we are. To help us gain access to this, let's just continue on dislodging our ABS wire from its mounting area here. I have my trim tool. There we go. So we're using an 18mm for our bolt head along the rearward side of this area. On the forward side, you're going to find that it has a captured mounting nut. There really isn't too much to do there. Now that I have it broken free, before I get my ratchet stuck in this area, I'm going to switch to an 18mm ratcheting wrench. I just pried that out of position. Now we can remove that upper control arm. Now to remove the upper control arm, I'm going to make my way along the outboard side here. We're going to gently pry this up, and we should be able to pull the inboard side out and away from our subframe. There it is, friend. Prior to installation of any brand new part, let's make sure we clean and inspect our mounting areas. For this, I'm just using a wire brush. Just want to make sure nothing's rotted and weak to the point that it's not usable anymore. Out here looks good. Subframe looks good as well. Now it's time for installation of our brand new rear upper control arm. Let's make sure we have it in the proper orientation. We have the wider area facing towards where the subframe would be. The thinner area is going to be on the outboard side. We'll get this in position. We're aligning it with the subframe first. Now that I have that in place, we're going to have to align our mounting bolt port. We're going to start in the mounting bolt, but we are not tightening this yet. Now, as we make our way to the outer portion here, you're going to find during the removal process, this area pulled out and away from the vehicle. So we're going to have to carefully tug it inboard so we can gain access to our mounting bolt ports. Everything needs to be aligned, and we're starting in this hardware. The mounting bolts will come through from the rear towards the front, and I like to use some anti-seize on the smooth shanked area. To pull this in, you could easily use a ratchet strap. Make sure you're as safe as possible throughout this entire process. That looks good right about there. So now we have our mounting nut. As you remember, we have this hooked area that's going to go over the top of this. Slide it right in here. Now, as we start bringing this bolt inward, we want to be careful for any pinch points. Don't have your finger in between this area. We are not fully tightening this bolt either. Okay. Now I have this bolt started in as well. We are still leaving it loose. Let's continue on by removing the strap apparatus that we have that's tugging this in. So now we're going to start carefully raising the subframe back up to the body of the vehicle. Keep in mind, if you have your vehicle on jack stands or on a jack, you want to be aware of it shifting. Be as safe as possible throughout this process. Once you have it up high enough, continue on with your hardware. The rear hardware started on. Let's start on the forward hardware. In this area, we also have our mounting bracket. The bracket's going to slide over the mounting stud here. I'm going to start in my 10mm headed mounting bolt. I like to use some anti-seize on these bolts. Now, of course, there should be 2 of these 10mm headed bolts. One of ours was broken. After both of those are started in, we'll continue on with our 18mm headed mounting nut for the stud. Let's continue on by tightening our 18mm headed mounting nut along the forward side here. After it's tight, we're going to torque it to 66 foot-pounds. Tighten your 2 10mm headed mounting bolts in this area. We'll just make sure those are snug. After that, we're going to the rearward portion of the subframe so we can snug and torque that hardware as well. As we start snugging this, you may find that the subframe continues going up towards the body of the vehicle. At this point, we fully tightened this side of the subframe. You need to go over to the other side, repeat this exact same process. Both sides of the subframe need to be tight. Let's get the front as well. Let's remove support from under the subframe. Now, before we reattach our lower shock, I always like to put support underneath this area. We're going to raise it up to the original ride height position, and then we need to make sure we torque each one of those 2 bolts for the upper control arm. We do this before installing the shock. It's just going to make things a little easier here. Now you may find that you have an issue getting a torque wrench in here to be able to torque this to 129 foot-pounds. If that is the case, I'm just going to use a long wrench that should give me some leverage. Let's just make sure this is nice and tight. Taps with our hammer there. Once you're sure you have that inboard mounting bolt snug, while we're still in this area, let's go ahead and resecure our ABS wire into its mounting bracket. On the outboard side here, same process. Go ahead and snug it up. We're torquing that to 129 foot-pounds as well. We'll secure our ABS wire across the top of the upper control arm. You can tell that there is markings on the control arm for where the brackets are supposed to sit. Gently flex each one of these brackets into position and double check to make sure they're properly secured so your ABS wire is not hanging loose. We'll continue on to our brake flex hose next. We're going to slide the flex hose bracket down into place. We have our mounting bolt. Go ahead and use some anti-seize on this. Start on the mounting bolt, snug it up. Double check to make sure that's properly secure. Everything up there is done. Let's go ahead and remove support here so we can reinstall our lower shock. For the lower shock, I've cleaned it and I applied some anti-seize on the smooth shanked area. This mounting bolt will come through from the inboard side towards the outboard side. And of course we have our mounting nut. Now you're going to find that you're going to have to adjust the height of the shock. This can easily be compressed. We'll just take hold of that, raise it up, align the mounting bolt port, slide it straight on through. You can use some thread locker if necessary. Once it's started, snug it up, torque it to 59 foot-pounds. One last quick inspection in this area and we can reinstall our wheel. We'll start on all 5 of our 19mm lug nuts. Bottom them out in a crisscross manner, get the wheel safely on the ground, and we'll be torquing each of them to 100 foot-pounds. The wheel is safely on the ground, full weight of the vehicle. Let's go ahead and torque these to that 100 foot-pounds. If you have a center cover, install that now. We'll make sure that the ports on the cover align with our lug nuts. Drive it in, make sure it's secure. Okay friend, we finished the installation of our rear upper control arm. Now the next thing you want to do is take your vehicle for a road test. You're going to listen for any odd noises and get yourself in alignment. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.